Hello, everyone. First of all, thanks for joining us today. Let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Carla, working as an MBA associate at Nabozaim and currently studying an MBA at ESADE Business School. Nabozaim focuses on maritime certification processes. We use many technologies such as blockchain, and we are pioneering digital solutions for port clearance process, MARPOL operation, ship registry, and seafarer certification. However, today we are here to welcome Professor Giulio Toscani. Professor Toscani is a corporate advisor and professor on digital strategy and strategic leadership with more than 15 years of experience in teaching and designing programs in business school and in multinational companies. Professor Toscani is academic director, Artificial Intelligence for Business at ESADE Business and Law School in Spain, and professor at the Pacífico Business School in Peru. And by the way, he is also a board member of Nabozaim. Thank you very much for being here and giving us the main insights on the current status of artificial intelligence, the progress and challenges in 2021.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla. It's my pleasure to be here. And let me start sharing our presentation and start talking about this exciting subject, which is artificial intelligence. So what is happening now? We're here talking about artificial intelligence all the time. And actually, we know that artificial intelligence is this reproduction of human reasoning and intelligence behavior. But actually, to be completely honest, is more a kind of attempt of reproduction of human reasoning, because we are still far away from them, because the human machine starts being extremely amazing. So just to give you an idea of what AI is, because we all talk about this AI and there is lots of disagreement about this artificial intelligence, what that really is. And it's very important to talk about something that there are different kinds of artificial intelligence. And actually, we are just to give you an idea, we talk about two. One is about the reactive machines, then the limited memory machines. And then we have the theory of mind and self-awareness that even the name already give you an idea that probably this is more science fiction than reality. What is the reactive machine? A reactive machine is what made really artificial intelligence famous. And this happened some years ago when the machine has beaten Garry Kasparov, the champion of chess. And this was a big burst because the machine was winning the human. But actually what machine was winning the human was just a software. And actually a software we didn't have any memory. It didn't know what was the previous move. It was only analyzing the situation on the board, on the chessboard, and decided the next move. So as you know, this has lots of limitation because, for example, if you don't have memory when you are driving a car, you don't know where you are coming from. So it's a big problem. So they advanced a bit and they made a limited memory machine. Why limited memory? Because you know that when you have to store lots of videos and picture in your computer, sometimes you start needing an external drive, especially if you do 4K pictures or 4K videos. So the same happened with artificial intelligence. Where are you going to put all this data? And we are going to talk about this, about the self-driving car myth, something that we were thinking was happening last year in 2020, but actually didn't. So artificial intelligence is definitely evolving. We can see in lots of applications. But actually, what can we do and what can we see? Let's give you two examples. On the left, what the machine can do, and actually on the right, what the machine still cannot do. So we have A and we can get B. On the left means that A, we have two pictures, and we ask B, which is, are there any cars in the pictures? And the artificial intelligence say, yes, there are cars. So the B is achievable. But what cannot do on the right side is what are these people doing? And the machine knows that there are 3 pictures with 3 different people, that they are all raising the right hands, the right arms, or an arm which is on the left side of the picture, but cannot distinguish that one is just saying stop, the other one is hitchhiking, and the third one is a bike turning left. So we are still kind of far away from achieving these tools. When we talk about where we are now with artificial intelligence, we are actually only in narrow artificial intelligence. We are now using artificial intelligence for something very specific, one area. We would like to get to general artificial intelligence. We have a general artificial intelligence because now, before we came to this webinar, we all had breakfast. We are able maybe to prepare a coffee, to have a tea, to put some olive oil or butter on the bread, but the machine cannot do these things. We can make flips, can make incredible calculation, but cannot put oil on the bread. So this is general artificial intelligence. And then super intelligence, which is what singularity point is instead even more complicated. And we are not there. We are very far away from there. We are only at the narrow artificial intelligence. So very often, to teach my students what the artificial intelligence is, I use the bingo. And I use this table just to say, we have different data sets and we want to make a prediction. For example, if we look on the top left about getting a forecast from a weather app, what data set we need, what is the prediction? So the data set, you can imagine, is about having the history of the weather, for example, here in Barcelona. This is the data set. We know how was the weather like on July 23rd for many years. So we can make a kind of prediction, if there are no big changes in the weather, that on the 23rd of July will be kind of hot and sunny in the next years. But when we go into something more specific, for example, how you make a recommendation for Amazon, many people would say, okay, just see what people have bought, and then you can recommend them. No, actually, it's a bit more specific. You have to see what people have bought together. So if I bought A plus B, if the next time someone orders A, I can recommend B. Or if someone orders B, I can recommend A. So even the data set are very, very important to start using artificial intelligence. But what are these data sets? Let me give you another frightening example. I don't know if you've ever done a Big Five test. This is a test which is widely used to give you a kind of, for profiling people. They give you information about if you are more reactive or an introvert, an extrovert, an explorer, a challenger, flexible, or more focused. So I'm sharing with you nothing confidential. I'm sharing with you on the left my personal Big Five test. So you can see more or less which is my personality. Then on the right, I'm showing you when I used Apply Magic Sauce, which is a serious project from Cambridge University. Look, we are talking about data, so don't get confused with the Cambridge Analytica. It's something very different. This is Cambridge University. I recommend you to use this applymagicsauce.com. Why? If you give to Apply Magic Sauce the access to your social networks, and I don't have Facebook, I don't have Instagram, and I only use LinkedIn and Twitter only for personal reason, it will profile you, understanding more or less just by how you use your social network, what is your kind of profile. And look, the surprise, 3 out of 5, it got very, very close to what I am. So the test that it took me about half an hour to answer many, many questions was done immediately by a machine profiling my person just according to my use of social network. So it's very, very interesting when you have all this amount of data, the modeling of artificial intelligence can start profiling things. But then we have privacy. If we don't respect privacy, then it would happen what in the US did in the election, that they use this kind of information to try to condition the people. So until now, all this profiling has been used mainly for advertising, cannot be used for other things because we have to respect the privacy. So when we talk about all this artificial intelligence, all this recommendation system can maybe work for Netflix to give you a better movie, but then there are lots of other limitations. Let me give you another example about the myth of artificial intelligence. I worked in Telefonica for many years, and there was a period we were only talking about autonomous driving. And I remember the last time we had this bus was in 2015. And I remember we did this video that in 2020, we were definitely going to have autonomous driving. And now we are in 2021, and we are definitely far away from that. Why? Because as you can imagine, autonomous car is very, very heavy because it requires electricity and it requires lots of equipment. If it's a radar, if it's a camera, if it's a GPS, to know where it is, to know where it has to go, and to know how to avoid, for example, pedestrians. But then also you have to consider that this car is very, very expensive because it has lots of equipment, has a very kind of sophisticated level. So it's not really an affordable car for everyone. So the only model is the shared car model, the taxi that goes around and picks passenger. But just to give you an example, this study in Germany, 90 million people, and only 15 million lives in the city. So that, let's see, justify a density of population that allows to use this kind of service. But actually only 5 million of these 15 really live in such a dense area that could really make profitable a business model based on an autonomous car that drives passengers around. But we are supposing also that passengers are going to use the car 24 hours, 7 days a week, which is not happening. So when we talk about autonomous car, and a few years ago we were saying they are going to disrupt the airline industry or the hotel industry, because if I have to go to a meeting tomorrow in Madrid very early, I have to leave 2 nights, take an airplane, sleep in a hotel. Instead, if I have an autonomous car, I can have dinner here in Barcelona or even wake up tomorrow, whatever, and arrive in Madrid tomorrow morning. We are so far away. This is science fiction. So we have to be careful on what is happening and in the moment and what will happen later. Another myth is about the bot, the conversational bot. I don't know if you ever used replica.ai. It's a very interesting, it's one of the most advanced bots because it's being widely used, so it has lots of data. But I shared with you this conversation I had when I was in Japan, and the bot could not really understand me, was very, very polite. So since then, which was 2 years ago, they start asking what was the subject you wanted to talk about. So to frame a bit better the answer and the question of what was going on. And again, the conversational bot is not just now an augmenting technology. It's something which is making a bit better the human work, but nothing else. It cannot be automated. You cannot rely on a bot to talk with a person, because if there is a problem, only a human can solve that problem. What are other good news? And not myth. Yeah, artificial intelligence is definitely advancing. Eclipse 4.0 is a company that is using artificial intelligence to listen. Listen what? Listen to the noise of the machine. I'm a chemical engineer, and I remember when we did our first university trip, it was in Procter & Gamble in UK. And I remember there was this old guy saying, you know, I know how everything is going fine. And he had a huge panel of control, but he was not looking at it. So I was saying, how do you know? You're not looking at the variables, at the meters. I say, I hear the noise is working. The machine is doing properly. So this company, Eclipse 4.0, is using artificial intelligence, and this is not a myth, this is really happening, just to listen how the machines are working. Very sensitive microphones. And so is avoiding and predicting the breaking of the machines, and sometimes even avoids to make crash tests to see if the welding are made properly. So this is one of the several examples of artificial intelligence. Just to give you something away from Uber, from Netflix, which are what we hear every single day. And you start doubting, okay, all the examples I know, about artificial intelligence are always from the same company. No, there are lots of small companies which are doing a great work about data and things. And Navozyme is another example, which is using blockchain instead of artificial intelligence. But it's still going and they're permitting to a sector which is very specific, like the maritime, to advance very fast. So sometimes you also need to have the knowledge to get into the things. What else about artificial intelligence? The fear that is going to take over human jobs. Actually, is there a real risk? Let's say that we divide very simplistically the types of job in 4 groups. We go about cognitive decision-making, which is the first one, the most advanced one at the C+ level. Then we have analytical and driving inferences, like skilled, some labor, like high school people. And unskilled labor, people that have really basic literacy. Surprisingly, artificial intelligence can only augment, but not replace, the jobs who are in the 2nd and 3rd group, not the 1st, not the 4th, not on the extreme. On the basic one, unskilled labor, imagine to move a piano from a building to another building. Can you imagine a robot doing such a complicated job, which is actually not even so well paid? That's really, really difficult. The human will be still there. And let's imagine taking decision, defining the strategy, being creative at a high level, C-suite level. This is also going to be very, very difficult. What about the work in the middle? Like analytical, yeah, machines can help, can augment, can give some information about it, but it's going to be very difficult that it's going to replace. So my professor, Thomas Malone from MIT, wrote this book about superminds. And this concept has been widely used about the cooperation of humans and machines. It's about the collective intelligence. It's about the centaurs that the same Garry Kasparov I mentioned before was using actually here in Barcelona about 10 years ago, when machine playing chess were beaten by not humans, but machine plus humans, which Garry Kasparov called centaurs. So this is actually what we have to think about, a cooperation about human machines, which is going to give the future. Why? Because we have incredibly great skills. We have common sense, we have moral, we have imagination, we have compassion, abstraction, dilemma, dreaming, generalization. All these things are very difficult for the machine, for a cognitive system to achieve, because they can greatly locate knowledge, they can get pattern identification, machine learning, they can even eliminate bias, and they have an endless capacity, but they don't have what we see on the left. So just to give you an idea, just to simplify, maybe you are too young to remember these 2 guys. And they had a specific role, because Dr. Spock was the reasoning person, was the rational part. Captain Kirk was the passion, was the emotions, was the intuition. We are into these 2 things. With this image, probably you will see what actually artificial intelligence is at the moment, which is a lot about helping the humans to get better intuition and to be more creative, but not really to replace, because Captain Kirk could not be replaced by Dr. Spock, but maybe Dr. Spock can be fined more. Analytical people can be fined a lot. And so analytical machine can be very, very useful. But intuition and people who have a holistic vision are maybe more rare. And that's why now we are doing lots of work and lots of research just to see what the human can do, not actually to be less human, but to be more human, to work better with the machine. And if you want to know more, there are lots of great podcasts around. There is Lex Friedman, who is a Russian-born professor from MIT, which is very philosophical. I use it, I listen it when I'm running in the morning, because he has podcasts up to 3 hours. Something more affordable is Azim Azhar, Exponential View from HBR, and they all interview brilliant minds in this technology world. Or Hidden Brain, about Chantal Vedantam, which has a more storytelling idea, or Tectonic from FT. I hope this was useful, and let's leave some time for the question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor. It was a fantastic speech, super interesting. Yes, we have received some questions from the audience. Let me start with that one from Captain Stephen Thomas. Share the following question. As artificial intelligence enter the operational sphere, what can seafarers do now and in the near future to make sure that this technology really assists us? How do we reassure seafarers who see artificial intelligence technology as a threat to their livelihoods?
So that's definitely some worries that is not just about seafarer, but is about everyone. But as I told you, there is really a human ability that is very, very difficult to replace. And as we know, seafarers have lots of abilities, because it's not just about the cognitive part, but it's also about all the safety requirements that you have on a boat that you need to be extremely careful and skilled. You cannot really imagine even the most sophisticated computer or robot to replace this kind of work. Actually, the main challenge for seafarers at the moment is about collecting data, because to use artificial intelligence, you need to have lots of data. And I think the main challenge to start using artificial intelligence in a good way, not to replace the work of seafarers, but to start having better and more effective processes to augment and not to replace the human being. This is very, very important, because automation is not actually happening almost anywhere. It's all about augmentation. So where you have the data, the machine can help you in taking some decision, but it's always the seafarer, it's about the captain that will decide about what is better to do. In the case of malfunctioning, in a case on a safety issue, but is always the human being to take the decision, but based on a recommendation on artificial intelligence, which is based on a data collection and analysis. And this is one of the biggest challenges, to start collecting the data and then knowing what data to use.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Let me continue with another one. What would you say are the common misconceptions about artificial intelligence? Like you previously said that artificial intelligence will replace humans. What are those others that are there?
Yeah, that's as I think I gave the example, the driving cars on purpose, because we've been reading in the newspapers and in the magazine for many years that cars were going to be everywhere, automated cars. And actually it's not happening, and it's not even close to happen. So we have the academics who are studying and going really deeply and actually being kind of, let's say, contradicted by other peers who are also knowledgeable about the research. So they are really cautious in giving away a new concept, saying, guys, this is going to happen. And they kind of framework much more and say, maybe in certain years, only a part of this is going to happen. And then you have, of course, the media, and not to talk even about fake news, but just to talking about serious newspapers that still, anyway, they need to give a good news. They have to give an abundance speech. So they are going to say, guys, this is going to happen, it's great, we are going to do. But very, very often when I'm in class talking about misconception, it's happening. Sorry, I put something on the telephone, and it's going to think that you push a button and you have these kind of things that you have is a kind of becoming rich extremely soon. So it's not happening. This is not going to be. It's just a software, just a computer. It's not something that will make these things rich. So we have to explain that technology is just going to support you, but it's not going to make you rich. It's just a tool, nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, well, with that, we conclude the session. the second session of knowledge, because we ran out of time. It was an immense pleasure to get the opportunity to listen to your fruitful insights. And it's definitely an important topic that will change our lives sooner than later. And we need to be prepared for that. So thank you very much again, and all the best.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. For all of you that are following us, Nabosheim, we remind you that these are the knowledge series and that we will have more speeches in the future. So please follow us on LinkedIn to be updated for the future sessions. Thank you very much.